Hello, my name's Todd Douglas Miller, and I am joined by a fellow filmmaker, one of my favorites in the industry, Richard Ladkani. Has really grown on me over the years. We've known each other for a number of years. Our paths keep crisscrossing. I think probably over the last 5, 6 years in particular. But I've known of you even before that, and I've always been an admirer of your films, Richard. You know that. So
Thank
I'm
you.
I'm happy to join today and to ask you some questions and have a conversation about your newest film, YANUNI, which I've seen now, let's see, 3 or 4 times, at least several times. And I get something new out of it every time. So for those people watching today who haven't seen it, tell us what the film's about.
Um, Look, YANUNI is about this indigenous leader from the Amazon, Juma Xipaia, who represents her people in a way that like I've never seen before. She's such a strong force of nature, and she fights for her people, for the Amazon, but also for all of us. And we follow her on a journey that lasts about approximately like 5 years. So I met her in 2020, and then just as the pandemic kicked in, we started production, which was very hard in the beginning. But basically, the trajectory of her is, to be this kind of activist, this eco warrior that never gives up, and we just follow her on this coaster ride of a life, where we see her rise and fall. We see, her enter politics. We see her fighting on the front lines of protests. We see also a deeply human story of a mother, that has to take care of her child, and of a husband who's on very dangerous missions, and they're both fighting for the Amazon, and they don't know if they're gonna see tomorrow because it's very dangerous what they do. So this film is all about them, it's a tribute to them, their story. It's very intimate and personal, and I just wanted to reconnect people with the Amazon through a deeply human story.
Yeah, and we've seen a lot of films about the Amazon over the years. Why did this call to you and talk about how you first became involved with the story and how you were able to get access?
So when it started in 2019, I was intrigued to do a story about the Amazon because I saw these images on TV where the Amazon was burning. It was like all over CNN and the New York Times, and how many football fields per day are being lost in the Amazon. And somehow I felt this is big news and it's like deeply disturbing. But I felt also that there's a lack of like connection, emotional connection to the topic. And I personally haven't seen a film in my lifetime that really deeply connected me to the Amazon. It was always kind of very kind of classic, here are the indigenous people and here's the forest and this is why we should care. But I felt we need a new approach. And I just thought maybe there's a way where I can reconnect people again to the Amazon in an emotional way so that we start caring again, that we care when we see the forest being destroyed, that we feel this is our forest and we need to protect it and we need to rise up and do something about it. So I was looking for a new story, like a new way of telling that story. And I deeply, believe in human storytelling, like just going through an amazing character when you find one. So it was a very, very long search that I went on. I went through NGOs and journalists and people who work on the ground that I knew or have met, filmmakers even. And I created a list of people that of interest, right? And Juma Shipaya was on the list, but she was the very last person I was actually able to speak to after 6 months of research. And the reason it was so hard to get to her was because she was in hiding and nobody knew where she was or nobody knew how to even contact her until I met this one journalist, Eliane Broom, who's very famous for her storytelling on the Amazon. She reports for The Guardian and the Times and even the New York Times. Like, and she kind of interviewed me first, and she figured out like I mean business. I I have a interesting angle on this in terms of like I'm not looking for something specific. I'm just looking for a great character. And she trusted me, and so she made an introduction to Juma. And Juma was deeply skeptical because she didn't want to talk to anyone. And but the call happened, And that call changed everything. You know, I had some people that I was interested in before, but as soon as I got to Juma and she started speaking to me in this very poetic way about her life and deeply touched me as well. You know, I almost cried on that first call because her story is so remarkable. She has lost so much in her life and she had just survived the sickest in her life when I met her. Like she was in hiding because she was trying to hide from the people who were trying to kill her. And this was very dramatic. And I thought, this story is the one I want to focus on. So I scrapped all the others and I said, Juma is the film. But the difficulty was, would she allow me to follow her over some time? You know, would she give me the access and the trust? So this was really the hardest part, you know, to kind of connect to her, have her trust me. And yeah, I mean, the first thing I did was I learned Portuguese because I realized that the translator I was using on that call, literally, she didn't trust that person. And I was like, if she's so distrusting, the only way I can make a film is if I can speak her language. So I learned Portuguese. Took me about 6 months, but after that,
Amazing, man.
connection was much better.
How many
Yeah.
languages are you up to now?
Well, I speak 5 languages, but I had to sacrifice my Spanish, which I was kind of fluent on, to learn Portuguese because they're so similar that now I can't switch anymore. Like I'm stuck with Portuguese now. I could go back to Spanish one day, but I would have to. Like I was just in Barcelona at a big festival and I was trying to give a speech in Spanish, and what came out just caused a lot of giggles. Yeah.
So tell me about the first time that you actually met Juma in person, just not over the phone. I understand this was you had met her, like this through a Zoom call online. But that first time in person, did you bring
Mhm.
cameras? Like what was that first interaction like?
Well, that's a great question because it happened in Glasgow at the climate conference in Scotland in 2021. It was the first time we could travel after the pandemic, and she left Brazil, and I went to Scotland, and we said, let's meet at the climate conference. And I was ready to start filming right there because I was eager to get scenes together because we weren't financed yet. This was all still a full-on risk production, pre-production, where we were investing into making the story come to life through by shooting scenes that would convince, like someone to pick up the film or commission it, or at least investors to come on and finance it. So when I met her, what I noticed from the very beginning is that the camera didn't bother her at all. It wasn't that she was used to the camera, she just completely ignored it. And that was remarkable because back then I was still shooting with a really big camera with the Amira. And, I'm shooting and directing at the same time. So in a way, I was so surprised that she would just be herself. And and I noticed that she's so centered and so connected to herself and her soul and to nature that she just doesn't give a damn about her surroundings of like she just is always herself. And I found incredible strength in that because I thought, um, this could really become a very personal, very intimate project because if I can stay close to her and maybe even, be at her house during like private family moments later down the road, or when danger strikes or when anything happens and she just ignores me, it could be this fly on the wall film that I've been dreaming about for a long time. Maybe not even using or anything, just go through dialogue and just kind of capture everything as it happens. And in the end, that's the kind of film it became because um, she just ignored me in a good way, and I noticed also though that she's a deeply emotional person. I remember shooting a scene with her in Glasgow. I think it was the third day. It's in the film where she found out that someone had committed suicide, an indigenous person, a friend of hers. And suicide is one of the biggest problems for the indigenous people because they have so little hope in having a future. So many of them just give up, especially the young ones. And she just broke down in tears while I was shooting next to her in the car. And that was when I felt, okay, it's like she ignores me and she's sort of in her own zone, but this is so emotional and important that I need to make a decision whether I should keep filming even. So, I then turned the camera down to just give her that space. So she never stopped me in any way. It was more me thinking, this is now getting too intimate. Let me back off.
Yeah, one of the most striking things about the film, I love that it really does play out like a verite film, and that's so difficult to do because you have to play the observer for a long period of time. There's no script, there's no, you don't have an outline. There's nothing really that you know. It's all up here in your head, and knowing how you work, which is to immerse yourself in that world. Tell us about maybe some of the challenges. You're based in Vienna. You have to travel all the way to Brazil. I cannot imagine how many trips that was. You have a very distinctive visual style. So you're always shooting with high quality cameras, bringing microphones. I'm assuming even drones. I'd love to know how some of these aerial shots were done because they're just absolutely magnificent in the film. But talk to us about the challenges of that and keeping your subject, Yuma in this case, engaged with the story.
Yeah, this was a tricky one because you remember I just told you about the big camera I used in Glasgow. So in Brazil, it was the polar opposite because the security issues were a big challenge. We didn't want to put any more threats on her through the film, so we had to stay under the radar. And when I say we, yes, there's a big team behind me, but in the end, it was mostly myself. Like I was mostly myself just shooting alone with her, and I had to do sound and camera because I didn't want anyone to interfere. Maybe a third to 40% of the time, I was able to bring on a second cinematographer to cover different angles. But then he would or she would shoot through a window, like from outside in. So we wouldn't kind of disturb this intimacy that I was trying to keep, right? So what I managed over time was that she and also her family literally forgot that I was even in the room, and that allowed for very personal moments. So often I would be literally hiding in the bathroom, shooting out through a dark from like an unlit bathroom door, or even from a closet sometimes. Like I would just like make myself as invisible as possible and let things unfold. And at the same time, I come from photography. I started in photography, came to cinematography, and then came to directing. So visuals are extremely important for me. So obviously, I always wanted it to look good. So, I used a camera that can work in low lights. I used microphones that can run all day. So I would just micro once a day, and you would have 10 hours of raw audio recording throughout the day, time code synced. So this allowed her also to forget that there was an audio device on her. And yes, for this film, I had to learn how to fly a drone because again, I had to do so much of it by myself. Again, sometimes I was able to work with Fabio Nascimento, a great cinematographer from Brazil, or Fernanda Ligabe, or other cinematographers that could help me every now and then. But most of the time, I was on my own. So I had a big drone, I had a small drone, and I would literally have them hanging on my belt, the Mavic 3, and I would just kind of launch it within like 30 seconds if I needed to. If I had a moment where I thought, now I need that aerial shot, and I would just get it up, even when we're on a boat or something, and just kind of get it up, get that shot, land it again, catch it, and put it back on my belt. And like it was a pretty tough. But you do that too. I've seen you, shooting, directing, use big camera, and so you know what it's like. But it's this one was a big challenge in a way. Yeah.
I don't sling drones on my belt, man. That's crazy. In the middle of the Amazon on a boat, like
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
that's next level. It's next level.
Yeah.
Um, you talk about these intimate scenes, and it seems like you have a subject that was very into at least granting you access into and putting you in a position where you can get those. What was striking to me was her husband's work and how dangerous that is. Can you
Mm.
talk about maybe when you first met him and was he the same or was he more protective in a way?
Well, when I first met him, it's actually a scene in the movie when he arrives at the airport. Juma comes to pick him up, and he has his gun with him, and he looks like a soldier guy. And I didn't even know who he was. I know that's her husband. I don't know exactly how he works. You know that I didn't know back then that he's a special forces commander of the Environmental Protection Agency of Brazil. So he works for the government, but he's really going into dangerous missions, fighting the illegal gold mining sites and that are mostly run by drug cartels. And they go on helicopter missions, and it's a pretty intense job. But as soon as I met him, I realized he was extremely suspicious of me. He's never been filmed. He doesn't like a microphone on him. And Juma had warned him there will be a guy with a camera, just ignore him, right? And that was easier said than done because he could ignore me by like kissing her and hugging her and just like, what the fuck is this guy doing, right? But then when I also got in their car and kept rolling while we were going to their house and then walked into the house with them and just started filming as he was unpacking, he was like, when the fuck is he stopping, right? And like, who's this dude? He just doesn't. And so I felt I had to take it easy, like just give it time. And it literally took maybe 3 months or something of getting to know him and coming back again and again before he actually opened up and he released some of this resistance, like he accepted me as a potential opportunity as well. Because when I got to know him, I told him, look, your work is amazing. And I would like to show what you're doing because through Juma, I will never be able to show the destruction of the Amazon. I'll never be able to show the world what damage these gold mines are actually causing, the mercury poisoning, the destruction of the rivers, the devastation of the Amazon forest as they kind of bring in these huge machines and excavators. And so I asked him to help me get permission to join them on missions. And that when that process started, he got more interested and he thought maybe this is also an opportunity to show what they're actually doing because they're working in the shadows mostly. So when I finally got the permit to go with them, which was unique because they had never allowed a filmmaker over longer periods of time, like more than just a single day, to go on missions with them. They did for journalists like routine runs where it's all controlled environment. They know it's not dangerous and they go in and they, show the news what they're doing. But I went on like 2 to 3 week missions and I had to take care of myself. I had to charge my own batteries, offload the footage, do like put up my own hammock, eat my own food that I brought. I needed to be completely self-sufficient. One person couldn't allow more people because I was taking the seat of a soldier on that helicopter. And it was a pretty intense time because literally I had to do everything again, just myself. And that wasn't an easy thing. And it got very, very hairy. There's a moment which is in the film as well where we almost blew up because something went wrong and they light up these machines and these big ships and they blow them to pieces and we almost were blown up as well. So
Talk
it
about
showed me
that for
that, well, something went wrong. It was basically like I was imagining we
no,
would
no,
be
no. I
shot
mean,
or
can you just talk? Sorry to cut you off, Richard. Can you just talk about when on these missions? There's a reason why they have to blow them up, and why
of course. Yeah.
they do what they
So
do.
these gold mines, you're right. These gold mines, they cause massive devastations and they use these giant ships, these factory ships that they bring in. These ships cost like $300,000 to manufacture and to bring into place, and then they suck up the riverbed to extract the gold from the rivers, and they destroy everything in its path doing that. But what they do is because this is so dangerous for them to go in, and because this is cartel operated business, they need to go in and out super fast. and they need to destroy the ship as fast as they can. Usually they give it 20 to 30 minutes max, because when they arrive with their helicopters and they kind of like land on these ships or right next door and then jump on the ships, they hope that the people run off, but sometimes they shoot back. But sometimes they also run off to get help or to get arms and start opening fire. So they need to destroy these machines as fast as possible. And the reason they don't kind of confiscate them and bring them somewhere else is because that would just be too dangerous. It is a very slow operation. So they need to go in. They also do this, for example, they blew up an airfield full of planes that the cartel was using. So they blew up the planes just I said, why don't you fly out these planes? I mean, these are expensive, beautiful planes. And he's like, because those planes could be rigged. How do we not know that there are traps on them, or that if I bring in a pilot that can fly them out, that the plane is not going to crash because they put some device on it that will make, the plane crash. It's just too high of a risk. So they blow them up, and it looks bad, but it's basically destroying equipment that would otherwise cause incredible damage over 10 years time, massive damage. So they just go in, they burn them, and they move to the next target.
We don't have that much time left, and I have too many questions for you. One of the things I think is really interesting in the film that you capture is this transition in government and how uh, indigenous people interface with that government. For the first time, they have a seat at the table, which is absolutely fascinating, which I haven't seen in that part of the world, which on its own makes the film unique. Just not with everything else we've talked about before. And I would definitely encourage people to see this in a cinema, see it in the theater. The sound design is absolutely extraordinary. It's a credit to you and the entire team and how you really have a very immersive type of experience that you bring, and you really are in that world. Could you talk just
Mm.
quickly about maybe the difference between how that sound design is in the Amazon and how it is in the city? Because I found the two, the kind of the duality of those really unique.
Yeah. Well, look, Juma is so connected to the forest that we really wanted to immerse people in this forest kind of feeling, right? If you walk into the Amazon, you realize that you're in a breathing, living organism that's all around you. The soundscapes are wonderful. They're just immersive and amazing. And Juma goes to the forest to find cure, to find relief, to find hope, strength. She gets everything from the forest. So we wanted people, when we bring the camera in there, to feel that, to immerse yourself in it. But then she gets the call to office, right? And she higher office, and she's sent to Brasilia to become Secretary of Indigenous Rights in the new ministry. She's called by the president, Lula, and the minister, and everything changed. Suddenly she's in a city full of cars and noise and electricity everywhere and the humming of tramways and all these things. And we wanted people to feel the comfort, the discomfort that she has when she's in these cities, right? That this is not where she's happy. This is not a place where she will find, cure or anything. It's basically she's sacrificing her life in the forest to fight for her people. And that's what Juma is all about. It's like sacrificing everything for the greater good. And I that's what I found so amazing about her, that I really wanted to amplify as well, that she's like I think she's an inspiration to the world, because she takes these things on her, and that's why we made this film about her. I just wanted to amplify that and show people how much sacrifice people make for all of us, so that the forest can be saved, the forest needs to breathe. But I wanted people to feel it. So it wasn't just about the visuals and the emotion and the intimacy. It was also about creating a soundscape that makes you feel what she feels on camera.
So you had a short theatrical run with the film. You've been to multiple film festivals. It seems like the film wins awards wherever it goes. How's it going out there? And where can people watch this? How can they see the film? And also, how can they help, with some of the issues that you explore in the film?
Well, look, we have been on a big festival run. It's like 35 plus festivals right now. We're trying to attend as many of them because we really want to give the film visibility. It needs to be out there. We don't have a distribution partner yet. I say yet because we're still hopeful, that
I don't know
people
how
will
that's
realize
possible.
how. Yeah, I don't know. It's a difficult market, man. It's not just our film. It's so many films are not selling, and I don't know. It's I think it's the political environment that we're in. Everyone is very cautious. And our film is about activism. It's about climate change, it's about indigenous rights, women's rights. These are topics that are super important, but they're not trending apparently, which is crazy. But we don't give up. I learned from Juma to fight, to always fight and keep on fighting. Her life is going to be a life of struggle, she says in the first 5 minutes of the film. And when she was like 15 years old, right, in this old archive shot we found. And I've taken that on, like we're never going to give up. We're going to go everywhere around the world. We'll show the film. It will find its home for sure. We won a dozen awards already. We're invited to so many festivals. We're getting great reviews. I'm confident, that the more people see it, the more we can also have an impact, especially for the indigenous people. We're running a big impact campaign, which is so important for us. It's led by Earth Alliance and Rewild. It's to empower the Juma Institute. She's trying to kind of really rise that, like empower that institute herself that she's now leading to protect her territory and become a model for an example of how other territories could save themselves as well. And she's such a strong leader. We want her to succeed. So if people want to help, we have on social media, on Instagram at YANUNI Film, you have the full impact campaign, all the things people can donate, become partners, empower them, help in many different ways. It's all on our social media or on our website, Malaika Pictures Yanuni. And we want people to engage. That's why we made the film. We have wonderful partners. Amazon Watch and Greenpeace and big NGOs are coming in to really elevate the film as well because they see it as such an important tool that they can use now to connect people again to the topic that they've been working on for decades, right? They say it's their most important tool right now to have because people are tired of statistics and numbers and the same information and the same pictures that they're showing of destruction. They need something that they can, hold on to that will touch them, that will move them. And we think Jules and her husband Hugo and their story of love and life and resistance and never giving up against all these challenges that they're facing is very empowering. So we're excited about that. And Juma is fully behind the film with her community. She always says the film is from the territory. Yanun is from the territory to the world. I'm going to be meeting her now in New York. We're going to tour New York, Los Angeles. We're going to get this out into like more festivals, more screenings. It's also for her, I think, a hugely important film, and she's so proud of it, and her community is so proud of it. They're all posting. All this indigenous influencers are, choosing the film as their film, which is so important. We won the audience award in Brazil, which was our most important award because it's the audience of Brazil, which is mostly white people. In southern Brazil, São Paulo, they all look like us. So for them to vote this film as the best film was incredibly encouraging. Like I remember Juma and I, we just fell into each other's arms because that was our most important festival and most important win. Yeah, so we're happy about that.
Well, our time's up, but Richard, it's an amazing film. It's one of my favorites films, just not documentaries, but even nonfiction films this year. It's a remarkable achievement, and I'm so glad in the way that you presented the story and that the two of you found each other, you and Juma. It's really it's really quite something. I encourage everyone to go see it. So thanks again for talking to me today, and go out there and get them.
Yeah, thank you so much, Todd, for making this happen. Thank you.